everybody. We are going to get started. If you are the parent of a current 9th grade student or are a current 9th grade student, you're in the right place. My name is Todd Distorath. I'm principal of the Chippewa Valley High School campus, and so I'd like to welcome you. I'd also like to introduce Mr. Brenningstool, one of our assistant principals, is in the back as well. So we're both here to help and support you, but mostly you are here for a presentation from our counselors about scheduling. Before I turn it over to them, just really quickly want to have one of our staff members talk about our internship program.
Good evening, welcome to Chippewa Valley High School. My name is Christy Walker, and I spend the first 3 hours of my day teaching accounting here, and then the rest of my day I spend working with our internship students. You can take internship your senior year if you're in a career and technical education program, but our announcement today is that we're looking to partner with workplaces that are interested in hosting a student intern. We have everyone from automotive to medical to business to woodworking to construction trades. If you work for someone or you own your own business and you'd be interested in housing a student intern, we'd be happy to talk to you guys about what that looks like. I will leave information on the back patio, but like I said, my name is Christy Walker, so feel free to reach out, okay? Have a nice night.
Hello everyone, I'm Mrs. Radzinski, one of the school counselors, and I'm here with Mrs. Pitcher. We're going to give you some important information for your upcoming 10th graders' 10th grade year and their years after in this building. So if you thought the Super Bowl halftime show was cool, you're in for a treat because we're going to top that tonight in this room for you. That was amazing. We're definitely not going to top that. But if you do come along or come up with questions along the way, just jot them down. We'll probably cover a lot of what you're going to think of. So just jot it down, and at the end we'll give time for questions. Okay? Next, So this is just our agenda for things we're going to cover, what to expect when your student is in this building, student activities and sports. Actually, we're going to have a student speak on that and their experience with those things. Graduation requirements and courses available, as well as career planning and post-secondary training and options. So that's really what we do as a counseling department, is address those bottom three the most with our students here. This slide has a lot of information, and what I really want to just bring to your attention and your students' attention is that there's a lot of changes when they come to this building. Okay? It's essentially like starting high school again. So they've had the 9th grade transition year, and then there's also, I would argue, even a bigger transition year here in this building because of the size, because of the exposure to different grade levels, and also because of all the opportunities. So I won't read them all, but it's a big building. Students still have lockers. There's 2 floors, so the first couple weeks of school, students are really navigating where the stairs are. Is my class upstairs or downstairs? All that stuff takes a little bit of time to learn, but they certainly do. We do have a school store here, 2 gyms, a weight room, and a pool. Eventually, lots of student activities. Eventually, the possibility for a parking pass if students have a car and pay for a permit, and tons of activities and clubs. So there's many ways to stay connected. Our school website is updated often. Also, our counseling department has a Schoology page that we already add that? Okay. Any 9th grader in here, are you getting our messages on Schoology? Yeah? Okay, awesome. So yes, the 9th grade counselors already added you. So we do post a lot on Schoology about things going on and opportunities. Eventually, when your student is a senior, it's probably when we post the most useful information for them. So we're always updating for students. Power School, you can keep track of their grades there. School Messenger, which you have to opt into. So if you have not been getting messages automated through email, that's something you have to opt into. It's not the same as Power School. And the fact that you're here probably means you already do that, but if not, we can help you with that process as well. And then if you do have your phone with you, you can either take a picture of or right now join. Students in here, we'd really like for you to do this. Parents, you as well, but we post a lot of opportunities for students, reminders about things, and again, it really comes into play in their senior year. So it's the message to @CEDFF39, then you text that number. Or I'm sorry, opposite of that, text that number, 81010, the message with that @ below. And really, in general, we just want our students to be in the know about what's going on. We also have daily announcements that Mr. Distelrath does with a lot of good information, so often students will ask about things coming up, and we'll just say, keep listening to those announcements, look on Schoology, and pay attention to your mind. Okay. I'm hoping that was enough time for the message. Okay. All right, so the next few slides are going to be about graduation requirements, because our goal is for every student to earn their diploma. So that's actually what our Chippewa Valley High School diploma looks like. And you know, in terms of the diploma, we do want to just explain grades and GPA and how that all works as well. So this slide just shows you our GPA scale. It's on a 4.0 scale. The GPA starts their freshman year, and it's recalculated twice a year, once in January, once in June. And it's based just on the final semester grade. So the final semester grade is a combination of the quarter grades, so each quarter, and then the exam grade typically. However, you know, as you know, we didn't have you know, regular exams first semester, but typically it's calculated on like a 40-40-20 model, where 20% is the final exam grade. This is what a transcript looks like, actually. So all of the students are starting their transcript here as a 9th grader, and you can see they have 6 classes each semester. So this is actually, like when they apply to college, this is what the colleges see at the beginning of senior year. They see their transcript. One thing I do want to point out is, you know, on the transcript you do see like the grade for each class. So again, that's just a semester grade, and then each class is worth half a credit. And then you can see under the career totals, credits attempted and credits completed. And then you can also see the high school cumulative GPA, okay? So again, that would get updated twice a year, and then you can see the class rank as well. So that just shows you how your student's doing in comparison to others in their grade level. Okay, so the magic number is 22 credits. They need at least 22 credits to graduate. Technically, if a student is passing all of their classes each semester, they would end up with 24 credits because they can earn 6 credits for each year in high school. But 22 credits is definitely required and needed to earn their diploma and participate in the graduation ceremony. And then the specific requirements are on this slide. So here's the breakdown. Students need, every semester they need English and math. And one thing I just want to say about math is, you know, I know some students have maybe 8th grade algebra, and they think, oh, I'll get to my senior year and not have to have a math class. Because technically they already have 4 credits of math, but the state still requires that they have a math class in their senior year. So I just want to make sure you know that. And then 3 years of science and social studies are required. Only half a credit in PE now. So you may have had older children that maybe needed a full credit. They've recently changed that to half a credit. You have to have 2 years of world language, and that should be consecutive in the same language. So 2 years of Spanish, 2 years of French, or 2 years of German. And then you need a credit in the arts, so that can be any music, CTE class, which is career technical education, or music. And then you need a half credit in health, and then the rest can be electives. And then this screen is just a screenshot from PowerSchool. So all students and parents have access to this through PowerSchool, but it does not work on the app, unfortunately, so you have to go through the website to access this. But if you click on Graduation Plan Progress, you can actually see, how your student is progressing towards those graduation requirements. So this just shows us the math section as an example, but you can see the dark green check mark is a class that they've already completed. So under the earn column, you can see that they've already earned credit in that area. And then the enrolled is the second column where it's light green. So if they're currently in the class, it should have a light green bar. And then the white, like if you look at senior math, there's a white bar. So that's missing. So that's something that is still needed to take in the future. And this is a pretty good tool. It's something on our end that we're constantly checking. It's not perfect though, so sometimes there are a few issues here and there. And we do encourage students and parents, if they look at this and something doesn't look right, please contact us. We'll definitely look into it. All right, I will pass it back over to Ms. Rosinski, who will talk about being on track to graduate.
Thanks. And also, part of what we do as counselors is we meet with students individually to schedule courses for their following year, and we will meet with the current 9th graders, and we look at stuff like this along the way with them to make sure that they're hitting these requirements. So that's always something we're doing on our end. So in regard to credits, these are the minimum number of credits that students can have at the first, after the, right now, so the 1 is the lowest that they can be at right now after first semester and still be on track to graduate. And then 4 would be the lowest amount of credits that they can be at the end of their freshman year and still be on track to graduate. Okay? If they pass everything, they would be at 3 credits right now, and they would be at 6 credits at the end of the year. So again, these are the minimums. And what we've been doing this week as a counseling department is we've been going into classes where students are missing credits and talking about the same type of thing. So we don't want students to be below these numbers, and ideally we want them to be above. So what happens if you are a student who is short in credits? There are options to recover those credits, and one of them is the credit recovery classrooms that we have here at Chippewa Valley High School. That's the one at the bottom there, and it says to be determined because there might possibly be some changes coming with that, but there's other ways to recover credit as well. So there's after-school credit recovery, which costs money. There's online courses through an out-of-district provider, which costs money. And then there's summer school, which we just recently found out is going to be free this year, just like last year. So that's definitely the best one to take advantage of if you have a student who did not pass required courses in 9th grade. The 9th grade counselors give out information about summer school to any students who did not pass. Okay, but we do have ways to recover credit, and we work with those students. We're always trying to get to that magic 22 number with them to get their diploma. Something that students have recently done or are doing with their English teachers is having exposure to Zello, which is the new version of Career Cruising, and that's a program that that our district has adopted that helps students come up with a future career plan, look into new careers that might fit them based on different assessments, as well as creating a 4-year plan for what they want their entire time here to look like. It's a really good tool for thinking long-term. As 10th graders, they get a little more choices in electives than 9th grade. As 11th graders, a little more, and as seniors, a little more. So each year you're getting more options for career-related classes, and the exposure and use of Zello for the educational development plan and the 4-year course plan is great. So we're going to move more into the scheduling piece and talking about what next year's 10th grade schedules are going to look like. Again, keeping in mind that we'll be meeting one-on-one with 9th grade students. So the course offering book will be downloadable and available on our website. It does have the description of everything we're talking about from this point forward in the slides, and many, many more descriptions, including what students would be exposed to in certain classes. So it's not necessarily a read from cover to cover, because it's long, but it's a great place to get more detailed information if you're confused on something, or you can always email their counselor as well. So there's going to be some classes that are already assigned to the student when we meet with them. So when we meet with the student, they'll have their core classes already listed in their schedule. And those include math, science, or English, math, science, and social studies. So when we're talking about the class itself, I'm specifically talking about like an honors or an accelerated level class. Based on test scores, your student might be automatically placed into those courses, which is a wonderful thing, but it can also be intimidating. We also have our AP US History class, which is like the honors version of social studies, and I think because it has the title of AP in it, it really freaks people out, but we've had a lot of success with 10th graders in that class. And it's really not been an intimidating experience for them at all. So when we meet with your student, we'll have conversations about what they are placed in. However, it's not the end-all be-all with placement, because we do obviously want to give students choices about the type of classes they will take. So we'll meet with them, tell them what they were placed in for those 4 specific things, and then we'll also have forms to hand the student if they're not comfortable with that placement, and it's something that the parent signs. Like, for example, you don't want your student in honors chemistry because they struggled in honors biology, or whatever the reason might be. It's just something they take home, have signed and returned, and then we move them out of those classes. Okay? So we want to challenge them, but we do not want to overwhelm them. So we'll have those discussions with them in the moment, and then with your input as well. Mrs. Pitcher again. All right, so I know I mentioned the world language graduation requirement on the previous slide, but with this, we just want to talk about that again, because we sort of go back and forth on this with students sometimes, because even though 2 years is technically required, the state of Michigan does allow students to substitute that second year of language with additional art credit. So if they take like additional music, additional art electives, additional career technical education classes, they technically don't have to take the second year. But we go back and forth with this on students quite a bit, because as counselors, we've talked to colleges, and the 4-year universities are telling us that they still want the student to have the 2 years of a language. And I would say it would especially be important if they want to go to a more competitive college like MSU or Michigan State, or I'm sorry, MSU or U of M. They actually require it. So keep that in mind. Even though you have that option for high school graduation, we still think it's important if you want to go to a 4-year university. All right, so PE and health, I mentioned those are required electives. So if your student did not have those as a 9th grader, we definitely would say try to take them as a 10th grade. That way that you'll have more options for electives your junior and senior year, and you get those out of the way. For band or choir students, I know sometimes there's level changes. You may not know what level you're going to be at for next year, and that's okay. You can always put either like your current level, or maybe talk to the teacher, see what level they recommend at this point. Usually auditions will happen at the end of the year, and then they will give us a list of the proper placements, and we can switch those at that time. All right, so electives. So one great thing about us being such a big school is we have a lot of electives. I came from a smaller school before, and we did not have so many options. So I really think we have something for everybody. It's just finding out what that is. And really, high school is the time to explore. You know, and I know it's a hard decision figuring out like what you're going to do after high school. I myself did not know at all. I went back and forth a lot. But if you use those elective options in your schedule to think about like what classes really interest you, what are maybe some career areas you want to go into, and then take classes that might be relevant. And we can provide recommendations if you're not sure. You know, and Ms. Rosinski was talking about Zello earlier. So in Zello, there are different, you know, career options that come up, and maybe you save those because you're interested in them. And that would be a good opportunity then to see what classes might relate to those careers. So the next slide, this is our career technical education programs. So we call that CTE. So these are awesome programs. They're very hands-on. Students make amazing projects. They work with teachers who have experience in those career fields. And many of these fields are high demand, high wage areas. So we definitely encourage students to look into them. And if you went to the curriculum fair tonight, maybe you had the opportunity to even talk to some of the teachers or students from these programs. And some of them are offered here at Chippewa. Some of them are offered at Dakota. We do have some limited spacing in some of the programs just due to sharing spots with Dakota, or if it's like a 2-hour block, you know, that reduces the amount of students we can put in each class. So some of them, when we go meet with students for scheduling, we'll have to put them on like what they call a wait list, and then we'll ask them to pick some other classes, and then we'll keep their name on the wait list, and then we'll look at that and decide, you know, who gets in. But we don't do that for every program. It's more like the popular ones, I would say like automotive, construction, culinary, programs like that. But with the programs too that are at Dakota, one thing you want to keep in mind is we do shuttle you there, but you can lose some class time with that. So you have to leave like your the class before a few minutes early, and then you get to your class at Dakota a few minutes late. And for most students, it's okay, but you know, that's just something, you know, if you don't like missing class, maybe to keep in mind. Programs at Dakota are construction, woodworking, culinary, mechatronics, okay? And all of these programs have a lot of information on our website and in the course book as well. All right, the other thing too to keep in mind with these CTE programs are some of the programs take longer than 1 year to complete. So for planning purposes, you'll want to really think about, okay, how can I fit that in the next 3 years? I know Ms. Rosinski talked about Zello, and there's a 4-year planning tool on that. And that's a really nice tool to help you figure out, you know, what you can include with the requirements. All right, I'll pass it back over to Ms. Rosinski. So this is some information about how students can earn college credit while they're here, which is of course an amazing opportunity because it means that it's not paid for by you, it's paid for by the school. So I'm going to explain kind of each of those in a little bit of detail. So the first would be through the student taking not just the advanced placement class, so the class itself doesn't give the college credit, it's like a college prep course or a college level course. But the AP exams and students electing to take those exams and earning a specific score can get them college credit. I wish there was an easy way to say, oh, if they get this score, they get college credit at every school, but it's different at all different universities. So I am actually the AP coordinator. So what I'll do, I work with the AP teachers and the AP testing. And what I'll do with students when I present in their classroom is we'll look up a college and we'll look up what scores qualify them for getting credit at that school. But honestly, aside from even the college credit part, an AP class looks really good on a college transcript. If your student is interested in going to a 4-year school, it looks competitive and makes them come off as a student who likes a challenge, which is good. So that's one way with AP exams. Articulation agreements are something that happens within the CTE programs, and the individual CTE teachers discuss that with students and have the information on that. But there are various opportunities within those programs to get certification and college credit. Dual enrollment means that a student is dually enrolled with us here and also with Macomb or any other community college in the area. Most of our students dual enroll at Macomb Community College. So that means they'll have 1 or 2 classes at Macomb. They actually go through the whole application process. I'm pretty sure you're talking more in detail about that. Okay, Mrs. Pitcher runs dual enrollment, so I'll let her talk more about that shortly. But there is a meeting for that coming up on March 29th at 7 p.m. So this is a big transition year already for 10th graders. So you definitely, if you're a 10th grader thinking about this, you want to make sure you're a pretty strong student who can handle a lot, because that's going to be a big jump from coming into this building and also being enrolled in college. But it's definitely good to know about, so feel free to put that in your calendar if you're interested. There's also the Early College of Macomb program, which ECM is what it's referred to as by us and students. They accept applications in January of the sophomore year, so right now we as counselors are getting those applications. They do a really good job of getting information out about it to parents, so often students will have the information before we even do. It is an application process, and the benefit of that program is that a student will, as long as they do what they need to do, will take a 13th year with Macomb, and then they'll end up with an associate's degree or certification all paid for. Okay, so for dual enrollment and early college, the school pays those costs for the college classes. So early college is something to look out for around December of next year, and that's something we can individually talk to your students about if they're interested in that. So this is a list of the AP courses that we offer in this building. The AP Physics C was offered at Dakota this year, but the rest of them are all offered here in this building. We have a whole lot of things. And also, if a student wants to take an AP test for a class we don't have, they can do that. They just have to get the prep and materials on their own. So these are all the classes students can take to look competitive, like I said, to challenge themselves, and also to potentially get college credit based on their test scores. We are going to have a form that's required for AP courses, with the exception of the one that I mentioned before, the AP US History. That's the one we'll be automatically slotting students into as our version of honors social studies, and then they can opt out if they so choose. The AP courses come along with a couple different things. One of the things that they come along with that's not on this slide is a commitment. No. They come along with a commitment to completing the full year of the course, okay? And those type of courses can be challenging for students, but we always really encourage them to stick through it, stick with it, even if they're not getting like the type of grade that they're normally used to seeing. And one of the ways we can help them feel better about that is that there's a 0.5 weight added to the final semester grade of every AP course. So they get a little grade bump at the end, so that way if they're not used to seeing a B+ because they normally get A's, that gets balanced out. So the example there, a B letter grade is typically equal to a 3.0 when it's calculated in the GPA, but if it's an AP class, it's a 3.5. Okay? So when they are getting into that type of commitment for that year-long challenging course, that's a little motivator for them. All right, so I'm gonna talk more about dual enrollment. So I know Ms. Rzinski did mention, we have that meeting coming up. So we'll cover a lot of details about dual enrollment in that meeting. And even maybe you're not sure, maybe if your student's ready for that, their 10th grade year, you can still attend the meeting. It doesn't, commit you to anything. Dual enrollment, though, is, as Ms. Brzezinski said, you're in high school and college at the same time. So, like, if you're taking, like, let's say, one class at Macomb, then you would only have 5 classes here. So that would be part of your 6 classes. So typically, like, our dual enrollment students may have that dual enrollment hour, maybe first hour or 6th hour, or if they have multiple classes, 5th and 6th hour, so that they can leave after that. And then in terms of like when that college class is, that's something that's up to them. They schedule the class themselves. So really it just depends on your schedule. Now with COVID, Macomb is offering a lot more online classes. So I think that's been a good thing, but sometimes those online classes are a lot harder than students expect. So they want to make sure that they're committed to spending that outside of school class time on it. And that's one thing I know, like when I went to college, I had to learn how to use time management a lot because, in high school I wasn't really used to getting so much homework, but in college there's a lot of reading, a lot of studying, a lot of writing, and a lot of that is done outside of class. So they say like a good rule of thumb is for every hour that you're in that college class, you spend about 2 hours outside of class studying. So like if you have a 3-credit college class, you're in class 3 hours a week, but then you should be spending like 6 hours outside of that class time studying. So that's something that we want them to keep in mind. I know Ms. Brzezinski also mentioned like the maturity, and that is definitely important because they're starting a college transcript, so they can't go back and change that once they start earning those grades in those college classes. Plus, they're in classes with students on an average age of like 25 years old. So, they want to be ready for that. And, we can't really communicate with those instructors at Macomb. Like, we don't really know them like we do our teachers in this building. So they have to be, more independent. And there are several steps with dual enrollment. So they have to do some admission steps through Macomb, and then they actually sign up for the class themselves through Macomb's website. And then there's also some paperwork that they have to send to me as well. So we'll go over all of that in the meeting. But just wanted you to be aware of what dual enrollment is. The district does pay typically around $700 per class. And that usually covers classes at Macomb, so that's why most students choose Macomb. Because if they're choosing like another university, probably the class is going to be more, and then they're going to have to pay the difference. And Macomb, they work with us a lot, so we have contacts over there in terms of like the billing and getting approval for classes and things like that. So we've definitely got a good process in place for that. All right, so kind of switching gears a little bit, we want to talk about life after high school, preparing for that. So I said earlier, our goal is for every student to earn a diploma. We also would love every student to have a plan. What are they going to do after high school? And that is hard to get them to think about when they're so young, but we believe there's a right path for everybody. It's just figuring out what that is. We've heard in some of the trainings we went to recently about 70% of jobs are going to require some type of post-secondary credential. So, that doesn't have to be a college degree. That could be some vocational training, it could be a certificate program, it could be military training, it could be an apprenticeship, it could be, it could be a college degree, 2-year, 4-year degree. It just really depends on what career field you pick. So really it's more deciding, okay, what career do I want to do, and then what type of training is necessary to get to that career, okay? And that's something us counselors do talk to the students about all the time. And we try, to get them thinking about that earlier, but sometimes, even our seniors still at this point don't know what they want to do. So we'll continue to help them, until they graduate. So this slide just shows you the correlation between education and salary. So as you can see from the chart, the more education you have, typically, the higher salary you earn. And then on the other side, it shows the unemployment rate. So as you can see, that's kind of opposite. So that goes, it's a higher unemployment rate when you have less education. So there's, definitely more opportunities if you have, more advanced credential. Cost of college, something that I think about every day when I'm paying my student loans. It's not, as you probably know, it's expensive. So 2 of our largest Michigan public universities, this is the cost of attendance for 1 year, okay? And unfortunately, it still seems to keep going up. So it's never too early to start saving. Sometimes though, we talk to students who seem to be like under the false assumption that they're gonna get a full ride scholarship. And yes, there is scholarship money out there, but it doesn't typically cover like the full cost of college for, a year or 4 years, and really finding scholarship money is a lot of work. You really have to, the students I've had that have gotten scholarship money, they're usually putting in a lot of time into looking for those scholarships and applying for them. Yeah, the mouse seems to be a little bit delayed. Okay, so some things to think about when considering college admissions. Grades, definitely very, very important, and we can't really stress this enough because, I know, actually my sister, I talk about my family a lot sometimes when I do presentations, she decided, like her senior year of high school, that she wanted to go to a 4-year college, but her GPA, I think, was like a 1.5. She could not get in. So you really, if you want a 4-year university to be an option, you gotta keep those grades up because it's very difficult to raise the GPA once you're a junior and senior. Besides the grades, colleges also will look at the types of classes you're taking. So they love AP classes. They want you to challenge yourself. They want you to, even like senior year, they want you to still have academic classes in your schedule. The SAT. So this used to be a requirement for like every university basically, but when COVID hit, a lot of colleges became test optional. And some of them were sort of moving in that trend a little bit anyway, but it kind of pushed them into that right away. And we're still not sure if that's gonna stick around for good, but for right now, many colleges are test optional, so they do not require the SAT or ACT for admission. Although sometimes it can help for scholarship opportunities and things like that. The other thing colleges look at, they want students who are involved, demonstrating leadership. And then when you apply to college, you may have to write like an essay, you may have to get a teacher recommendation, but you don't do that till the beginning of your senior year. Okay, some other tips too with college planning. Again, the career goals should drive what you decide to do for college. I know sometimes I'll be talking with a student and they'll tell me they want to do a certain career and they want to go to a 4-year university, but sometimes whatever career they want it to do is available, at Macomb, so they don't necessarily, always have to do the university route. So it's just really kind of researching that and making sure that you know what's necessary. We really encourage going to Macomb too because we know the cost of college is expensive. Macomb's a fraction of the cost, and there is no difference like if you go to Macomb first and then transfer or start at the university in terms of your degree. So your degree, if you go to Macomb for a year and then you transfer to Oakland and you get a degree in business, it's the same degree regardless. And I actually work at Oakland Community College as a part-time counselor, so I see students doing that all the time. If they're taking the right classes, they just save themselves a lot of money. So it's something just to think about. We also really encourage visiting colleges, and I think the earlier you can do that, the better, because that might motivate your student, and that really gives them a feel for what a college campus is like, and if they could see themselves there, if it's the right fit. We also have college reps that come to our building during lunchtime. Usually that's more in the fall, but we have colleges from all over Michigan, even some out-of-state colleges that come. And they're outside the cafeteria during all the lunches. So students can just go up to the table at lunch and chat with the rep. So it's a really great opportunity to ask some questions. All right, testing. So I was mentioning how the SAT has become optional, but we still have practice opportunities, and we still offer the real SAT in spring of the junior year. And then before that, they have 3 opportunities to do the PSAT, which is like a practice SAT. So they do that in spring of 9th grade, spring of 10th grade, and then fall of junior year, okay? So we still want to give them the opportunity, you know, in case it could help them. And the other thing with SAT is there is a great website, Khan Academy. You may have used it maybe even for help with certain school subjects, but they have great SAT prep on that, where students can actually customize the practice questions on Khan Academy to the areas they need to work on. They can link that to prior PSAT tests, and they can work, you know, at their own pace. They can take practice tests, and it's free. So it's a really great way to practice. Oh, the other thing, I know Mr. Zinski already mentioned AP testing. We also do a test called the NWEA, and we use that for placement purposes. So we test twice a year for that. And so Mr. Zinski was talking earlier about how we place students into honors classes. We look at those test scores as one piece. Now, that's not the only thing we look at, but that is one thing we look at. All right, the other thing I want to mention is NCAA. For any students who are maybe interested in playing in college sports. So with NCAA, that's like an accreditation that the school might have. They have like Division I, Division II. There's certain academic requirements a student has to meet in high school to be eligible to play at sports at that college. And we're not going to go over all those today, but what I would encourage you to do is go on the NCAA website. The NAIA is also another organization that accredits college sports, but it's for smaller colleges, so their requirements are not as rigorous. And then one of our counselors, he's also the football coach, Mr. Merchant, he actually, one of his duties is to oversee this, so students can schedule an appointment with him too, if they want to talk about this more. All right. Oh, we have a student, right? Coming to talk about our student activities.
So we have a few slides about student activities and athletics. I'll just go, we're not going to read them, so as Bree is talking about her experience doing these things, I'll click through just so that you all can see the different things that we offer.
Okay, hello, my name is Bree Potsky. I'm a senior this year. I love getting involved in my school, which is great, because I did student council as a secretary for 4 years. I did student government for 4 years, and I did National Honor Society for the 2 years you could. I got involved in chess club. Any of these are good just to make like friends in general, but also I was very scared of talking in front of people as I'm like sitting here talking in front of all of you. But it definitely made me more outgoing and more talkative and bubbly, and it really gives you a good start for college, even just like talking in front of class. I took Spanish 4, so speaking in front of people in Spanish, and I can barely speak English. But yeah, I love getting involved in anything, and I'm also a varsity athlete for the dance team, so I've been in that for 3 years. I enjoyed every bit of that. It made every bit of my high school experience a lot more fun. I got to dance at football games, basketball games, and made a lot of lifetime friends on the teams. So it's really good to get just involved, and I enjoyed it and made every bit of my high school experience more memorable, especially through COVID and everything else. So I definitely recommend it. So if you have any questions, I'm gonna be here, so feel free to ask me anything.
At the beginning, when I first walked in here, I told Bree I was nervous, and she's like, "Why are you nervous?" And like, she has more confidence up here than I do. So I think that really speaks to what being involved can do for students. Ideally, we want all students to be involved in something here, aside from just coming to their 6 classes.
It certainly promotes a connection to the school, to other students, more of an investment in coming here. And it's a really good way to meet people who are like-minded and form that friend group that we know is super important for student success here. We're getting close to the end. There's only like 3 more slides. So maintaining good grades is, like Mrs. Pitcher said, essential for a student who's looking to go to a 4-year college, no question about it. Aside from that, it should be important to all students to do their best in their courses and to take as much information out of the courses as possible. So many times our conversations with students are surrounding academics for both high and low and middle achieving students. But we certainly stress the maintaining good grades in classes and what students can do. I would say the very first one is probably the issue that keeps students from doing well the most, which is attending class every day. We've certainly run into that issue here at the 10-12 building as repercussions from what students were used to with previous COVID school years, and we're working on it. But showing up every day consistently is the most important thing. And I tell my students too, like, your teachers are more willing to work with you and do things for you if you show up. Okay, so consistent attendance, and then being attentive, you know, phone away. That's really hard for students to do sometimes, and sometimes me. So that just a conscious effort from you, reinforcement from you at home with kind of disconnecting from that time. Communicating with the teacher is so key. And there's so many times where parents will reach out to us as counselors, or students will reach out wanting answers about something that's going on in the classroom. We don't know, we're not in there. We love to help when there's an issue we can identify, but we're not in the classroom to speak to what's happening. So going directly to the teacher, as a student ideally, also as a parent, maybe secondary, is really the way to start out if you want to find out what's going on. Checking up on grades through Schoology and PowerSchool, having a way to organize and keep track of work as a student, separate binders, a homework folder, apps on the phone, an agenda, whatever works for your individual student, that hopefully they had some experience now to know at least a couple strategies that work for them. And then being consistent with a routine is really important for really any of us trying to achieve anything. Having that time set aside, including a break. Like, we need a break from stuff too. So balancing that out, and that kind of goes back to not being too overwhelmed, but also challenging your student, you know, and that fine line and that balance there. And the bottom, it seems like so often, again, more recently due to pandemic causes, that students, because they're overwhelmed, just are ignoring it, like not pretending that it does not exist. And that we run into a huge problem around the end of the semester where then students are trying to dig out of this hole. So just keeping on top of your students, looking out for those 0 grades that can really drag their grade down, and encouraging them not to just ignore stuff. So there's lots of resources for additional support, and the first thing I'm going to mention is that little circle chart on the left, because what we do as counselors is so much more than the academic stuff. So much more. And a lot of times when there's academic issues, there's other stuff going on. So it kind of leads into those conversations about social, emotional, and personal stuff going on with the student. And we do address that. I would argue that we address that more often than any of the other stuff. Academics, and then college and career. We always try and tie conversations back into what do you want to do after you leave here, for a bigger picture. But we do a lot, and we work a lot with students, and we want for you all to know as incoming students, we're with you for the next 3 years, 10, 11, and 12. We follow you through the grades, we see your growth and your progress, we support you in all those years, and it's really, really cool to see a senior that I have now and remember them as a 10th grader and see how far they've come. So we're trying to get you to wherever it is that you want to be when you leave here. And then aside from your counselors, For academics, there's homework club that meets in the media centers on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have tutor lists for teacher tutors as well as student tutors, and some of those student tutors can be free because they're getting hours for National Honor Society. Websites for academics, like Khan Academy is really the best one based on what Ms. Pitcher had mentioned earlier. We have a student assistance program that runs additional support for students who are struggling with mental health, including small groups. So a lot of times when we meet with students, we'll throw that option out there if they want to further explore those type of groups and meet with people who are having similar issues to them. And then there's also times where we know when we're meeting with a student that we're not going to be able to give them what they need based on the time that we have with a caseload of like 360 students. We can't give them like a weekly meeting as much as we'd love to. So sometimes parents will ask, can you check in with my kid every week? It's just not feasible with the caseload sizes that we have. So we always give referrals to students who require some outside attention and outside specialties that we can't offer. So we're always trying to help in any way that we can. So this is the caseload, although it does shift a little bit every year, so this is not going to be 100% accurate for next year. We do shift our alphabet slightly to account for equal numbers, but it won't be too far off from this. So this is who your student's alphabet last name would be assigned to, and again, like I said, we follow them through the years up. The slight shifting here and there. So Mrs. Pitcher and I are at the end of the alphabet. Okay. And then when we do meet with the current ninth graders, we'll meet with this alphabet range. So they're most likely to meet with the counselor they'll have in 10th through 12th grade. Oh, and also, as far as, I mean, we're not in the same building as them right now. So if you do have individual questions for us versus the 9th grade counselor, just email is definitely the best way to go about that. Okay. So now, if you have questions, we would love to answer them for you. Or that good. Or we just overwhelm the heck out of you. That's most likely what it is. Oh yeah. Is it yet?
Yeah, I believe we're going to send it out through school messenger, and then also we'll put it in our school newsletter too.
It'll be out there. It's not yet, but it will be. Anything else? So were we better than the halftime show? Thank you all so much for being here. Your students are lucky to have you. Have a good night.